Why do good real estate projects get bad press? That negative publicity, that bad news that demonizes and defeats many projects across the country. Literally every month there's thousands of these negative news reports attacking developers and their projects and resulting in billions of dollars in economic losses almost on an annual basis, if not more. So here in the War Room, we're going to go ahead and solve this mystery once and for all.
Initialize program.
Welcome to the War Room. I'm Patrick Slevin, your host. And negative publicity or bad news is something that has been plaguing the development industries for decades. Ever since there's been media and development, they have been oil and water, right? They just don't mix. And it happens so often that developers just really want to fly under the radar, and that really works to the advantage of the local NIMBY opposition. And so before I go ahead and give you the three key elements as to what causes this negative publicity, I want to show you a montage, okay? It's about 7 to 8 news reports that I put together from around the country, different projects, and I want you to see the common thread, that common denominator. Now, it's really subtle. You're really going to have to pay attention, but when you're on the other side of it, I'd be interested in seeing what you found. So let's go to the tape.
New at 10, a controversial proposed development is moving forward in Criolla, and that's despite overwhelming opposition from nearby residents.
A developer is ready to build a giant shopping center anchored by a Walmart, but the sensitive nature of the land has a lot of neighbors upset.
Neighbors have been protesting to the county commissioners, and today the developer said he was scrapping the project.
The Missoula City Council approves a controversial 31-unit townhouse development in the Orchard Homes neighborhood.
Plans are on the table for a $150 million development in Villa Hills, and you know what? Not everybody is happy about it.
The controversial proposal has many in the community divided.
The fate of a controversial project in East Oceanside is still up in the air tonight.
This controversial development will go here on 105 acres just west of Kaiser Boulevard.
But not everyone is excited. The controversial plans face several zoning hurdles.
Still a lot of buzz around Daphne today about City Council's narrow passage of a controversial rezoning proposal.
In a new developments at 5 o'clock, Tulsa City councilors voted to delay their decision about the controversial proposed retail development.
Big vote tonight on a controversial Prairie Village retirement home.
One group took to the streets to try to stop a massive development from moving near their neighborhood.
A controversial nearly 20,000 home development in the Antelope Valley was approved Tuesday by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors.
Right now, residents in Carlsbad are still packed into City Hall tonight, fighting an emotional battle over a major housing development.
Tonight, people who live near the Sunset Valley Golf Course make their final appeal to stop the plan to convert the course into a new housing development.
New tonight, a controversial residential development in Lower Botetourt County was struck down at the County Board of Supervisors meeting tonight.
We've seen this over and over again all over Nashville. Should Metro Council change zoning laws to allow for major development?
I don't think people realize that we're not the big bag developer.
All right, so what do you think the message was? Like I said, it was subtle, right? Controversial projects. And so when you go back to my first video on the cage match, that first letter C is conflict. And now we're seeing what conflict really produces. Conflict produces this negative attention. And it works well. But this is not by happenstance, meaning, yeah, if you see that one news report in your local media market, yeah, it kind of seems like it's a one-off, right? It was organic. But as you saw in the montage, there's a pattern here. There's an intentionality behind all this negative publicity, and it goes to the NIMBY playbook. And that's what we want to expose here, right? The NIMBY playbook has these principles, these elements that ensure that the negative publicity is going to happen. So the first element, there's many of them, but I'm going to give you 3 here in this video. And the first one is knowing that these reporters are sketch artists, not painters. And so what do I mean by that? Meaning that they have a topical interest, let alone knowledge of real estate development in its own right. You know, it could be renewable energy, it could be mining, it could be affordable housing. These guys are just, you know, they're just going to get the topical parts here. They're just going to sketch it out. There's no time for them to go ahead and paint it and even sign it, which leads to the second element, and that's deadlines. They're perpetually under deadline, right? So even if they want to really start unpacking all the elements, more often than not, the reporter has to meet that deadline in the afternoon. They got to get the story going, and they got to get it wrapped up by about 4 o'clock or so, or they're going to be in trouble with the editor in order to make the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news or the next day's printed story. So that's the second element. And the third element, before we get to that, which is very important, and it really underwrites the rest of the War Room programming moving forward, is please go ahead and hit the like if you like this video, subscribe, join our movement. We're growing with subscribers every day. If you're not a subscriber already, please hit it, and we'll work together to overcome this NIMBY factor. So thank you for that. So the third, and it really is the most important, is the reporters. They're gonna respond to whoever calls them first, and it's typically 99 out of 100 times, if not more, it's going to be the opposition. They're picking up the phone, they're emailing the reporters and the editors, the news assignment editors at the TV stations, and so what that does is they have that first impression. And that first impression is a very negative one for the developer, right? And so that first impression then frames the narrative. And so by the time the reporter downloads all the one-sided allegations, which is a lot of misinformation, let alone disinformation, they have a bias that's already been programmed. Even though they're not supposed to be biased, let's face it, media has biases as well, and these reporters are no exception. So by the time they call the developer, they already have the story written in their head, if not already written down in the computer. By the time they call, they've already spoken to the opposition, of course. They've spoken to the mayor or county commissioner. They've spoken to maybe some other third party. So by the time they call the developer, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're just looking for a filler quote all the way bottom of the story, right? And so that's another program we'll talk about in the War Room. So those are the three elements. You bring them together, and of course, it's going to turn into a negative news story. But let's step back for a second and understand that the media has a lot of influence on impressions, and it really does punctuate the saying that we all know: perception is reality. And so in the context of the NIMBY War Room and these NIMBY controversies, as we're all hearing from this segment, is it's a political reality that developers need to appreciate. And those that are watching and trying to understand this phenomenon, at the end of the day, it's a political decision. And so when the perceptions are negative, and the reporting is negative, and the stakeholders in the community have a negative vibe, of course the reality is going to be a negative vote. It's going to be a political rejection of whatever that application for the real estate development is. And so the way to overcome that is going back to those three principles. The developer has to get over that fear factor of I'm just going to get bad press, and the reporters they're biased against me. Well, as we just learned, they really are operating with what they have, and what they have is the negative impressions coming from the opposition. How about you call them before they hear from the opposition, and guess what happens? When that happens, now you're able to infuse your frame. The positive benefits, the merits of the project, the economic benefits, the jobs that are being created, the revenue that's going to support first responders and help schools be funded. that is the ideal time to call the media. And that's what we push for in the War Room. And so that's you'll see that in other programs as well. But if you really want to get into the meat of the coconut of winning more NIMBY opposed projects, go ahead in my description. You're going to find my free ebook, The Art of NIMBY Warfare. And it really does start unpacking and exposing their playbook and what you can do as a developer or land use professional or communicator to start countering and outmaneuvering this pattern of behavior. Because as we're wrapping up here, this is not happenstance. This is all premeditated. It's a pattern of behavior that is very obvious. It's going back to when I was mayor of Safety Harbor, Florida, back in 1996 when I was 27. I saw that firsthand on the dais. And really, in over 30 years, nothing has really changed. Or 30 years, nothing has changed. It's the same pattern. And so that's why we have the War Room here, start breaking these patterns, exposing the playbook, and empowering professionals who want to do the right thing. And right thing is bring a sustainable project to the community that's going to bolster their quality of life. And so the right thing begins with not being afraid of this negative publicity. Turn that bad news into good news by proactively engaging the media. You have a great story to tell. Well, tell it. Package it, present it, and stand by it. And then when you do that, you're going to see more. You're going to see less NIMBY opposition, and you'll see more YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, opportunities. So we'll see you in the War Room the next time. Watch this video. We'll continue talking and overcoming that NIMBY factor. See you next time.